Okay, looks like the webinar is live. Maybe we'll give it just one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Sounds good. And are we able to see any of the participants, Adam, or not?
We are, yes.
So when they come on, we'll see them?
There's a participant list at the bottom of the Zoom. You can see that the participant number is growing. And
Yeah, I
so,
just can't see anybody. That's what
yeah, you won't be able to see the actual people.
Okay.
You can just see
All right.
that logged on to our webinar.
Yeah, let's make sure we give them enough time then, and we'll get started in just a couple minutes, brothers and sisters. So thank you for jumping on. We'll just be patient for a couple minutes and we'll get going. One of the things that we like to do is to, and I mentioned this to Adam today as well, that one of the things we want to do, brothers and sisters, is to make sure that you get your questions answered. So if there's a question that's pertinent to a specific part of the discussion, I have no problem pausing and trying to answer that question. But we can also assure you at the end, we'll leave a few minutes for questions. And hopefully, if we didn't get to you specifically, or you come up with a question after the presentation, we've factored in a few minutes to go ahead and actually have that as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started, brothers and sisters. Welcome, and I'll let Adam go ahead and get us started.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Accelerating Your Job Search with Michael Baker. I'm your host, Adam Hammer. Before we get started, I'd like to give a few reminders. We have muted all attendees, so please post questions for our presenter in the Q&A/polls tab. We will do our best to capture questions and share them with our speaker during the Q&A. If you run into any technical difficulties, please let me know, and I will do whatever I can to help troubleshoot the issue. I have the pleasure of introducing our presenter to you today. Michael Baker is an employee of the Welfare and Self-Reliance Services Department of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He is currently a regional employment manager for the Western United States. Prior to his time as a regional employment manager, he worked in the federal judiciary in the U.S. districts of Nevada and Utah. In Utah, he chaired the executive committee for an interdisciplinary reentry coalition focusing on reentry efforts and employment services across local, state, federal, and faith-based community working groups. Michael also spent time as a global career development facilitator for the federal judiciary in Washington, D.C. Michael has been married to his wife, Kristen, for over 30 years and currently resides in Farmington, Utah. Michael and Kristen have 5 children and 1 daughter-in-law. He has served in various capacities in the church, including Elders Quorum President, Bishop, and was recently released as a counselor in the stake presidency. Now I'm going to turn the time over to Michael Baker.
Thank you, Adam. And brothers and sisters, I want to just share a little more because you might be wondering, what is a former federal probation officer going to tell or help me know about accelerating my job search? Well, I want to share just a few minutes about that because I think it's pertinent. I helped individuals as a federal probation officer in Las Vegas and Salt Lake City areas. I helped individuals who were struggling to find meaningful employment, to get back into the society and the community. And they had some unique barriers. Barriers that I'll never forget. One gentleman I had that was coming out of federal prison, and he had a very scary appearance. He rarely smiled, and but he wanted a job and he needed a job. And every place he went into, an entry-level position that he was trying to get, they were nervous and they were scared. And I had to explain to him, because of the way his appearance looked, the tattoos on his face, on his head, and the simple fact that he never smiled, were barriers to him getting a good job and getting a good opportunity. And so we even worked on some simple things like just his physical appearance, wearing a shirt that covered up some of his tattoos, wearing a nice hat that covered up the skull tattoos that he had on his shaved head, and teaching him to smile. And brothers and sisters, he got a job in relatively short order after he worked on just a few simple things. Now, obviously, it wasn't a public-facing job. It was something in the back, but he had welding skills and he had pipe fitting skills, and we were able to help that good individual re-enter into society and get a good job. And then I had the distinct pleasure of working on task forces and working groups with federal judges and faith-based groups and with employers. We would go to the Chamber of Commerce. And this is the part that I think might be very interesting to you, brothers and sisters. We went to the Chamber of Commerce and we went to large employers. We said, what is it that you want? And they said, we want individuals with soft skills, pro-social attitudes, a willingness to get along, and most importantly, that their skills match up our needs. And then finally, and this is one that I did a lot with people that were involved in the criminal justice system, but this is transferable to anybody and everybody. Do not bring your drama into the workplace. And what I mean by that is every one of us have difficulties, have trials and heartaches in our life, difficulties in our own family, immediate family, and those that we're helping and serving in different capacities. But we've got to be able to compartmentalize that and not bring that to work if at all possible. And those are just some of the things that were transferable from working with reentry efforts as a federal probation officer and a reentry and employment specialist that I think may be helpful today as well. One thing that I want to share is how important it is that I taught these individuals, and what we would teach you are kind of the way to find the hidden job market, to accelerate what it is you've been doing. And there was a Pew study done a while ago, and I couldn't find the exact year, but the study went like this. There were individuals who were recovering from being laid off, individuals who had been downsized or reduction in force or let go because of economic and financial difficulties. Obviously, those all sound familiar, right, brothers and sisters? We're dealing with the effects and the after effects of the pandemic still. And in this Pew Research study, it mentioned that getting your equilibrium back, getting your good spirits, your attitude, your mojo, if you will, back following a job loss took longer than recovering emotionally from the death of a family member. That's significant, brothers and sisters. So I want you to know that we know in employment services, those of us that try and help individuals with self-reliance and such, we know that this is a difficult time in your life, and we won't minimize that. We know that that is a difficult time, and we want to give you tools and resources today that will bless you and help you answer some of the questions you might have of how do I get a good job, a better job, or go from unemployed to employed in a quicker pace. What are some of the skills? What are some of the techniques? And that's what we're going to work on today. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully everybody can see that. And as the title states, accelerated job search, shortening the time it takes to find employment. That's really what it's all about, brothers and sisters. We want you to have a shorter time, less time stressed, less time worried, and be able to get the job you want that you fit for in a quicker time. And we're going to talk about some of those skills and techniques today. I cannot emphasize enough, brothers and sisters, how important this is that you seek the help from the Lord. Now, I couldn't say that when I worked for the federal government, obviously. I couldn't talk about how aware our Heavenly Father and our Savior Jesus Christ are and how they want you to succeed. But I can do that today. And I'm grateful to testify that as we ask Heavenly Father to help us identify our previous accomplishments and successes, help us remember to know what to say in the moment we need to say it, whether we're networking, whether we're doing an informational interview, whether we're actually in the very interview itself, that we can go in and be inspired and feel that revelatory power of the Holy Ghost because we've done our homework, because we've learned about the company, because we've done all that we can to be the best fit, to calm our nerves, to help us to be comfortable throughout this job search process. That's what Heavenly Father wants us to do. Those specific details, he wants us to ask for help. He wants us to help us to be confident throughout our search and to express gratitude. And brothers and sisters, I just testify, I've been through this similar situation. I remember walking in and realizing that my career needed to move from one state to another because of some family issues. I have a daughter that has some serious health issues. There were no children's health services in Las Vegas the way there were obviously here in Utah with Primary Children's. And taking this to the Lord, I asked for specific guidance. I asked what I could do and what he could do to help align my skills, my profession, to find a place that would be best for my family. And I was willing to go anywhere in the United States. I sent an email, felt inspired to send an email the next morning to the chief of the District of Utah, who was a friend of mine, had newly been called as the chief. And within minutes, 15 minutes of just reply or asking him how he was doing, hope things are going well, how are things going in the District of Utah. I didn't even ask for a job, brothers and sisters. And he sent me an email, do you want to come work for me? And as you can imagine, the gratitude, the compassion, the kindness, the Holy Spirit's influence that I felt knowing that Heavenly Father was willing to help me that quickly to find something. And I had to take a pay cut because of my specialty in Las Vegas was not available in Utah. But within a couple of years, I've been promoted twice and eventually ended up retiring in an executive position there about 3 years ago and came to work for the church. So I know where you're going, where you've been, and where you're at in a lot of these unemployed situations or changes in your career. I want to share this brief little, it's about 4 minutes, but brothers and sisters, be specific when you're praying for help. Be specific, and I just think you'll love this. Sister Bonnie Corden, I believe she's the Young Women's President, and I want to share. It's just about 4 minutes, but we'll watch this and comment on it.
We know that prayer is evidence that the Lord understands the storms of life and the need for his children to have a safe place to retreat. While prayer is spiritual work, it is also an opportunity to find
Looks like the presentation just paused.
Are you able to hear it?
We were, but it just.
Okay, I'll try it again. I must have hit the button, sorry.
find solace as we turn to God. Solace is defined as comfort in times of sadness or distress. The Lord is merciful unto all who will, in sincerity of heart, call upon his holy name. Our Father in heaven wants us to counsel with him about what's important to us. If it matters to him,
Just 1 minute, folks. I'm going to try and adjust the sound. I apologize.
We know that prayer is evidence that the Lord understands life and the need for his children to have a safe place to retreat. We know that prayer is evidence that the Lord understands the storms of life and the need for his children to have a safe place to retreat. While prayer We know that prayer is evidence that the Lord understands the storms of life and the need for his children to have a safe place to retreat. While prayer is spiritual work, it is also an opportunity to find solace as we turn to God. Solace is defined as comfort in times of sadness or distress. The Lord is merciful unto all who will, in sincerity of heart, call upon his holy name. Our Father in heaven wants us to counsel with him about what's important to us. If it matters to him, if it matters to us, it matters to him, because we matter to him. Let me illustrate this with let me illustrate it with a story from my daughter-in-law, Hannah. She says, quote, "While I was serving as a missionary in the United States, I was transferred to a new area where a wonderful member would feed us 4 to 5 times a week. The first dinner I went to, the sweet sister surprised us with pizza. Excited for each treat, I eagerly ate my dinner and thanked the sister. The next night, you can imagine my surprise when a completely new family treated us again to pizza. I ate the pizza and thanked the family for their thoughtfulness. However, after this pattern was repeated every night for 2 weeks, I was sick of pizza and started dreading dinner with members. Finally, when it started to weigh me down, I dropped to my knees and told Heavenly Father that I was so grateful for the members' service, but I couldn't eat any more pizza. I needed a break, and a meal of fresh vegetables would be wonderful. That evening, after a long day of work, we arrived at a member's home for dinner. The mother was visibly nervous as we sat down to eat. She explained that she was trying to cook healthier for her family, but if we didn't like her dinner, she could order us pizza. She then served us a scrumptious dinner of fresh vegetables. In prayer, I thanked Heavenly Father for the break from pizza and courageously asked if it was possible to have curry with rice for dinner. My heart started to giggle when we showed up for our next dinner appointment and we were served curry with rice. This pattern continued for an entire week. Each morning, I would pray specifically for what I wanted to eat. And that night, the members would unknowingly serve us the exact meal I had asked for. Finally, after a week, I told Heavenly Father he won. I couldn't think of any dinner that he couldn't deliver, and I was ready to return to pizza or whatever the members served. After that prayer, my heart felt light and unburdened, and grateful for such a mindful and loving Father in heaven. Like Hannah discovered, every joy seems doubled and every sorrow supported when we bring it to God in prayer. Every prayer is a brick in the foundation of our relationship with Heavenly Father. The true gift of prayer is knowing we are not alone when the world literally brings us to our knees. Many of us have already experienced firsthand what the prophet Helaman warned his sons about when he said, "And now, my sons, remember that it is upon the rock of our Redeemer, who is Christ, the Son of God, that ye must build your foundations, that when the devil shall send forth his mighty winds, yea, when all his hail and his mighty storm shall beat upon you, it shall have no power over you to drag you down because of the rock upon which you are built, which is a sure foundation, wherein if men build, they cannot fall." Life sent
So brothers and sisters, I hope that you can see that even the smallest things matter to our Heavenly Father. And I can't emphasize this enough, that with the job search, Heavenly Father will inspire you if you specifically ask for the things that you need. We're going to talk about some skills and some resources and some tools that will help you now in this presentation. But I can't emphasize enough how important it is that we emphasize and utilize the partnership of our Heavenly Father and the Holy Ghost influence to help us find the right people to talk to at the right moments, at the right times. And I promise you that the Heavenly Father will bless you in that. We want to talk about accelerating job search approach. This is what, brothers and sisters, I would say is the secret sauce of employment services within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the Welfare and Self-Reliance Department. I want to share something else just a moment. I want you to experience briefly something that will be your best friend as you look to find the resources that the church has. We are on latterdaysaintjobs.org. That's the vanity URL, but I've put it in the feature where you have access to a one-page with the services that are available. This is it's employment.churchofjesuschrist.org is the link. But brothers and sisters, this is the landing page or the starting point, if you will, from what the church has in our division, employment services. And I just want to briefly show you where it's at, and then we'll get into a little deeper dive with this. But you can see right at the very beginning is the active job search program. This is, like I said, the secret sauce of what we offer. If you click on that, it's going to take you down to an explanation of what it is. And then you go to find a group, schedule and details. And then it tells you the places across the US and Canada, brothers and sisters. This is exciting. Where you want to be, where you want to potentially work, or where you're currently living, there's a group for you. So it's a 60 to 90 minute small group. There's one in the Eastern US and Canada. There's one in Idaho in the Central US and Canada. There's several, obviously, at different times in Utah, and these are, these are the ones in Mountain Time in the Southwest, in Dallas, Fort Worth, in Texas, and then the one that I happen to manage is on the West Coast, and it's this one right here. If you go back to that main site, you also have the ability to find specific skills workshops. These are offered every day, brothers and sisters, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, job search skills workshops. What if all you need is help with your resume? It's when I was reinventing myself, I hadn't done a resume in 25 years. I hadn't needed to do a resume. I'd worked for the state and I'd worked for the federal government, and I had to learn how to do a resume again. Accelerating your job search, this similar program to what I'm sharing today is offered on Mondays. On Tuesdays, you can learn about resumes. And on Wednesdays, you can learn about finding job leads. And on Thursdays, preparing for interviews. And we go back to the main page where the carousel is. There's webinars, brothers and sisters. These are offered in the evenings. And beautiful webinars. Every month there's one. In later this month, sharpening your negotiation skills. That's a live webinar on Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time, so 5:30 on the West Coast. And you just join the meeting right here. How to succeed in the gig economy in September, techniques for changing careers. But if you want something now, right now, then you go to the previous webinars and you've got enhanced your LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn in your job search, how to succeed in second and third interviews, utilizing a conversational roadmap, how to write cover letters that get you interviews, emotional resilience in the job search. We know how difficult this time is emotionally. And these two wonderful therapists and counselors help you to learn some coping techniques and some skills, and then how to succeed in virtual interviews. Those were all previous webinars that you can have access to and review right now. And then back again, we also have starting a side business. This is one that happens again on Thursday evenings, but it's at 7 p.m. And if you're thinking about, have questions about it, or just interested in starting a side business, you come and take this group. And we've got 2 incredible entrepreneurs that are really, really good at helping people with that. And then I would be remiss if I didn't have you, any of you, you do not have to be a member of the church, but if you've not signed up to register for one-on-one coaching from employment missionaries that are skilled up, trained, that will be compassionate, Christ-like, and kind when they're working with you and helping you, you can sign in right here, sign in with your church account. And you just log in with your church login, and within 2 business days, you'll get an employment support missionary reaching out to you via text, a phone call, or email to see how they can help you. That's one-on-one coaching, brothers and sisters, separate from all these additional other resources. So there's a ton here to help you. And then up at the very top, I would be remiss if I didn't share this with you as well, called Article Index. If you had an understanding that you just wanted to learn how to network more successfully, then you click on this, and there's tons of articles for you to read about networking. So all that's available on that site. Now we'll go back to the PowerPoint presentation. Adam, are there any pertinent questions that we need to jump in? This is kind of a natural break before I go back. Are there any questions relevant to what we talked about yet?
There haven't been any that come up, but maybe
Okay.
can you just repeat the website again one more time?
You bet. Employment.churchofjesuschrist.org. I put the link in the main page of this worksheet or workshop, along with a file for anybody to access those same resources. So employment.churchofjesuschrist.org. And then there is a file for you that I've shared as well. So I'll go back to the PowerPoint presentation. So, brothers and sisters, what we're going to talk about now is how you can get focused and accelerate your job search approach. What we're finding is this 15-10-2 method is probably the best method to helping you accelerate your job search. But you come into this active job search groups and utilize this 15-10-2 method after you've gone in and reviewed some of those things that I just showed you. You become more job ready, if you will, job search ready. It helps you build your focus. It helps you know connections you're going to need and you're going to want to improve. And it helps you with a really proactive approach to find the leads, to find the people you need to talk to. And it gives you a chance also and a place in a safe environment to meet Monday through Friday in the morning or whenever it fits your schedule, to work with others to build and strengthen your skills. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the slides coming up. So refining your job search skills. Like I said about my own personal and professional experience, it had been a long time since I'd thought about changing careers or needing to change careers. And there's some areas that many of us need to improve, to polish, to refine, to get more comfortable with. And that could be effectively communicating our skills, our accomplishments, and our experience. Ways to refine your resume and target it specifically to the job, the industry, and the position that you're looking, including strengthening your cover letters. There are a ton of common interview questions. And brothers and sisters, in these active job search groups, you can learn how to develop those answers and to utilize power statements, utilize your me in 30 seconds, or what is commonly called your elevator speech. And then obviously the greatest thing you can do is grow your network, and that ripple effect improves exponentially when you are networking with other professionals in your region. And then of course, we continue to help you research and learn about topics And you make plans. Part of this 15-10-2 approach is that you make plans and an approach, and you say, stay systematic and organized, and it helps you as you find those that you need to be in contact with. Here's a little slide that I just love. It demonstrates in one slide the 15-10-2 method. So each day, utilizing this method, you're going to refine a job search skill. Instead of just doing a scattered or shotgun approach, you're going to refine the skills, and you're going to be more targeted in your approach, and you're going to be able to get more interviews that will lead to more job offers. Part of how we do that is you identify 15 new resources that you've researched that day. You're going to make 10 contacts that day, and you're going to have 2 face-to-face interviews. And I know the pandemic, but you can have a Zoom face-to-face interview. You can have a face-to-face interview on your phone. There's a lot of ways to do it. It may not be as challenging or difficult as you think. So identifying 15 new resources, that sounds a little overwhelming. What does that mean? As you can see from the slide, a resource is a person, place, or a thing that could lead you to a potential opportunity. Every time, brothers and sisters, you're in just about anywhere, you're in line at the grocery store, you're on a bus or a train, you're at visiting with a parent that's on the sidelines of your kid's baseball or soccer game. That's a time for you to identify resources, to talk to people. There are 2 things that everybody likes to talk about. They want to talk about where they're from, where they grew up, and what they do for a living. Adam and I just met a few minutes ago, and what was the first thing I asked him was what he did for a living, and we shared a little bit about that. It's really easy to ask people what they do for a living. You're not asking them for a job, brothers and sisters. You're asking them what they do, and eventually you can talk about informational interviews, and we will, and you can talk about ways to grow your network. But right now, finding and identifying resources. There's places that are very easy to do this. You can do it at Chamber of Commerce. You can do it at civic or professional associations, government agencies, anywhere that might provide industry, market, and employer information. Look for those to help you find. It's as simple as Googling software engineers in Sacramento opportunities, and you'll get types of opportunities for you to do some informational interviews, as well as through LinkedIn and such. You can find people in companies that that know others, and that's where you talk to them about what they do. You may also want to list contact information, keep track of what it is you're doing, and why the resource might be helpful in your job search. Make 10 contacts. A contact's any interaction you have with others related to your job search. So you look at those 15 resources, and you identify which 10 you want to contact, or you will contact, or would be easy for you to contact. And then these are some of the things you can do. I want to jump in really quick here, brothers and sisters. As members of the church, we are really, really good when a baby is born. We're really, really helpful when someone passes away, and we bring food, and we console, and we mourn with those that are mourning. We're really, really good at all those things. When someone tells us that they're out of work, we all of a sudden start doing the Michael Jackson moonwalk away from them because we just don't know what to do. Well, brothers and sisters, it's easy if you talk to a friend or a family member and you ask them specifically for, do you know anybody that works in software engineering? Do you know anybody that works in law enforcement? Do you know? Be specific, and people will more than love to help you if you're being specific and you give them something to do. You're not asking for a job. All you're asking for is to build resources, and you do that by your contacts. You can apply for a job the old-fashioned way of just throwing a resume and an application out blindly that's in your targeted area. That's okay, but it's not the best way. You can contact the potential employer for informational interviews. Ask them if you could send them a resume. You could do some specifics that are more detailed and targeted, and that works better. All these are examples of making contacts. And then once you reach out to somebody in a reasonable amount of time, follow up with a phone call, with a text, with an email. Again, that's a contact. Sharing social media post or message requesting leads or contacts, those are contacts. always, brothers and sisters, send an email thank you, a text thank you, a follow-up phone call of thank you. People will be more receptive to help you again. And when you respond to that person that they advised you to talk to, tell them, hey, I did talk to Michael Baker, and thank you so much for that referral or that contact. Holding face-to-face meetings. Again, this might seem a little onerous or difficult in kind of today's pandemic world we're in. It's really not, because there's something, you have a purpose for what it is you're doing. And it's just twice a day. Right now, you're making a face-to-face contact with me, for example. And you can conduct informational interviews. Now, informational interviews are not asking for a job. They're asking for information to see if you're a good fit. You're asking for two individuals that they also know in the particular industry that you're interested in. All those things are considered an informational interview. And come prepared to an informational interview with specific questions that you couldn't get from your own research, general website review, and things like that. Meeting a friend or networking with a contact for lunch. We can still eat lunch. We can still talk about what they're doing and how things are going in their industry. Visiting family members. How many of your aunts, uncles, grandparents, brothers, sisters know that you're looking for work? How many? Be brave about that and be open and honest about that. But again, be prepared to ask them for a couple of specific areas or interests, that what they know about those. I love this next one, brothers and sisters. Invite ministering brothers or sisters to your home to discuss your employment needs. That's the way it's supposed to work in the church. Your ministering brother or sister should know when you're struggling or when there's some changes in your life, that then can go to the Elders Quorum presidency or the Relief Society presidency, who has access to or should be aware of some of the tools and resources of self-reliance through life help and some of the things, including employment.churchofjesuschrist.org. Talk to a neighbor while on a walk. Attend these active job search groups that we're talking about today. Go to an official job interview. That obviously is a face-to-face meeting. And brothers and sisters, a lot of companies, organizations are gearing up and presenting job fairs, whether it's virtual, some are doing in person and socially distanced and such, but there are a lot that are out there. Employers are hiring and they want to hire. And that's a great place to get face-to-face meetings and continue to contact people. It builds your network and strengthens yourself and your confidence as well. The 15-10-2 method, again, it's going to give you greater control of your job search. You're not dependent on just postings. And it provides opportunities and specificity to ask friends, family, and acquaintance about information that's going to help you in your job search, helping you find job leads and opportunities that you can't find, brothers and sisters, on their websites. There are so many hidden jobs that are out there that people don't even know about and that haven't even been posted and that are going to be filled by internal candidates or closely referred individuals. And that's where you come in to find those people that know what's going to happen in the near future in their companies and organizations. And then obviously it helps you understand how to be helpful to others as well that are in their job search. So these active job search groups, more specificity, what do they really do? They connect you with others who are also in the same boat as you. So you're not alone, you're not on an island. You get daily support from others, from missionaries and managers, as well as your co-attendees. And you get job search skills training. Every day they go over a skills training within these groups. And you share the things you're finding out that may not be in your wheelhouse, but may be helpful to someone else in the group. You get to meet daily. They have a welcome, a skills refresher. They participate in sharing their goals. They share job leads, and you get support and guidance. The groups are facilitated by volunteer employment advisors, skilled and trained missionaries that were former executives, that were entrepreneurs, academia, people in a broad and deep areas of professionalism. They go from 60 to 90 minutes. And they're, as I showed you before, they're all over the country. Now we need to have a little levity here and we'll share this. Be prepared, brothers and sisters, when you go to talk to somebody, if you're prepared, it's going to be a little different than what we see here. But be prepared and know what to say. I think you'll enjoy this. Okay, so a fun little what not to do few minutes there, but brothers and sisters, we've got to be ready. You've got to have the things in place that we can help you with, and it will speed up and it will target your job search. Do you have an up-to-date resume? Do you have 3 to 5 power statements that you're ready to say, that you're not spitballing it like Michael was there, making up stuff as he goes along? Do you know what a me in 30-second statement is? That elevator speech we talked about. Do you have a list that you're working on and you're targeting in your networking? And then obviously we want you to have additional one-on-one coaching by registering on latterdaysaintjobs.org. Have the tools in place. And again, the screenshot here shows what we already did a brief flyby with the employment website and those particular skills, workshops, ask an expert, all those things that are there to bless you at any time. Again, the church's employment services offer several resources to assist you in building your job search skills. It used to be called LDS-jobs.org. It's employment.churchofjesuschrist.org. We've got workshops in resumes that are fantastic, finding job leads workshops, interviewing workshop, one-on-one coaching. That's the select personalized assistance from the skilled missionaries that have been skilled up and trained. Active job search groups. That's what I've been really pushing here because they work. They reduce the amount of time that it takes you to get a job significantly. And then Ask an Expert forum is that the forum on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays from 3 to 4 Mountain Time. And we have regional employment managers such as myself and some targeted skilled missionaries. And we work on overcoming barriers. Maybe there's some specific barriers that you have that you think is unique to you. Well, it's probably not. And we can help you with that. And we brainstorm and we talk about it and we share some of these things that I've shared today. And then there's some spin-offs, some one-off help outside of that, along with some of the coaches if necessary as well. The workshops, they're going to help you build your skills. They're going to help you build your confidence. You're going to feel, hopefully, the Spirit and the Savior's love. I hope I've conveyed that today, that how important that is in our division and in our department. Everything revolves around our Savior helping us be the best that we can be to help you. Our missionaries want to help you in a Christ-filled, Spirit-led manner. And these groups, brothers and sisters, hopefully are infused with the skills, the techniques, temporally, but also help strengthen you and encourage you and feel the love spiritually as well of our Savior. When you're ready, when you've gone to some of these things, when you're ready to get onto that 15-10-2 approach, it works, brothers and sisters. The active job search groups help you connect. That's why I've been sharing it. And we strongly encourage you to make that a part of accelerating your job search. This is a short little video. I love this. It's how it all comes together. Watch this, please.
Last night, Josh's friend told him about Computer Central, a company focused on computer support. It sounded promising, so Josh decides to look into it. The company's website lists 2 job postings, Computer Tech 1 and Customer Support Rep 2. Both look like a good fit. Josh customizes his resume to each position and applies to both. Most job seekers would have stopped there and waited for the phone to ring, but Josh knows he'll have a better chance of landing the job if he can talk with the hiring managers. Returning to the website, Josh searches the company directory for anyone who might influence the hiring decision. In the end, he finds 3 names. Knowing that referrals are more effective than cold calls, Josh meets with 2 of his teachers after class to see if they know anyone working for the company. They referred him to Alice Patton, a secretary in the very department hiring for the 2 positions. Josh learns a little more about Alice from his teacher, but to be prepared, he also looks at her professional profile. Then he gives her a call, shares his "me in 30 seconds," and asks who he should talk to about the 2 positions he applied for. Alice refers him to the actual hiring manager, William Stevenson, one of the 3 people he'd identified earlier. Josh spends the remainder of his day pursuing other job opportunities. Josh begins his job search efforts by reviewing William Stevenson's professional profile. Then he calls, shares his "me in 30 seconds," and verifies that his application has been received. After learning more about the position, Josh asks to resubmit an updated resume directly to William. Josh also learns from William that Sarah Johnson is the hiring manager for the other position. Josh repeats the same process with Sarah. Knowing there are probably unadvertised positions, Josh asks about the company's other needs. Sarah informs Josh about 2 additional positions. After the phone call, Josh updates both versions of his resume and sends them to William and Sarah. He also writes and sends thank you notes to Alice, William, and Sarah. Josh then spends the remainder of his day continuing to pursue other job opportunities.
So I hope that kind of puts it all together. So if you stay organized, brothers and sisters, that's another technique that is really, really important. Use some kind of a tracking system, Excel, notebook. Keep good records on your search, including where you've applied, the postings, the contacts, the interview notes, because what you're going to do is go back and check to see how, if someone received the resume, all those kinds of things. And if you stay organized, it's going to make it a lot easier. Plus, it'll give you ability to not miss something, a name, a contact, including their email address and such. Follow up, follow up, follow up. That is huge. I have a lot of individuals that will reach out once, and then I never hear what happened to them again. I have others that follow up and say, "Thank you for that lead, Michael." And he also referred me to, or she also referred me to these other 2 people. I'm totally going to help that person. And if someone calls me that maybe I referred them to, that I'm LinkedIn with or that I'm friends with, I'm going to be more apt to be more confident in sharing what I know about this individual because of how they've treated me professionally and such. So if you want to join an AJS meeting, obviously go to employment.churchofjesuschrist.org. You can /AJS and find a time that fits in your schedule. At a designated time, as I showed you on the link, you just click right on that link and get into the meeting. And then brothers and sisters, come willing to interact and share with other participants. That's why we really encourage you to go in and check some of these skills workshops and some of these other presentations so that you feel confident that you are job ready, that you are specific in your resumes, that you are ready to rock and roll, and to get that networking help of that group of the accelerated and the active job search groups. And then come every day as much as possible, obviously, until you get the job. And again, all the skills workshops and everything are on employment.churchofjesuschrist.org. And I put that link in the room with the file of the one-page worksheets. So I just wanted to close with this, and then we'll open it up for any questions that people have. This is from a graduate of an active job search group. I get to work with people who are in the same situation as I am. The positivity that they bring influences my own. I wish I would have known about this at the start of my job hunt, because going at it alone can be miserable. By having the resources available here, having other people that I'm able to network with and the missionaries who help are just an amazing blessing. My resume is a lot stronger and my interviewing skills are sharpening up and getting better. I just have a better outlook and a better understanding of who I am and what I'm really good at, and I'm able to tailor that to find more accurate positions. So what questions, Adam? We've got a few minutes. Any questions that are in the chat?
Yeah, we've got a couple questions.
Perfect.
One is, what if English isn't, my first language, or I have some sort of disability, and I feel like that might be something that prevents me from, getting the job that I want.
Right, great question. So on that employment.churchofjesuschrist.org, the articles that I shared with you, and even the web page and the dialogue on that, you can actually go into the top right corner of that website and change it to the Spanish language. So people could get some assistance there. We do have one general workshop that is offered in Spanish. It's hosted once a week. I believe it's Thursday evening. If anybody wants to, I can reach out to them. And I believe my email address, is it in there, Adam, for people? Michael B. Baker at churchofjesuschrist.org.
Let me go ahead and type that into the chat.
So it's just common spelling, Michael, Michael, B for my middle initial, and then Baker. So Michael B. Baker, 2 B's, at churchofjesuschrist.org. And so I'm happy to share the specific link for that Spanish speaking opportunities for people that speak Spanish, or that's their first language and they're more comfortable with that. And then the second question had to do with disabilities or some other barriers.
Correct.
That's something that we can work with on a case-by-case basis. I would strongly encourage people to come to an active job search group and even come on to Ask an Expert and get some specific help depending upon the region and the part of the country that they live in. We actually have people call from all over the world. We've had people from Africa, South America, Australia, New Zealand, and Europe, and obviously the United States and Canada on Ask an Expert. And we'll try and help them in the area that they're at, depending upon the resources and staffing in that part of the world.
All right, great. Second question is, what if the job they're searching for interferes with their Sunday Sunday church service? So
yeah, no, that's great. I was in federal law enforcement for a lot of years, and one of the reasons I chose federal probation instead of the FBI, and I love the FBI, but they couldn't guarantee me that I wouldn't have to consistently work on Sundays. And so that's something going into the very beginning of the process. That's where an informational interview would be very valuable. You would know right off, Adam, if you called somebody that was already in the business or the company, the industry, what the requirements were on Sunday employment, and if there was any wiggle room around that. A lot of healthcare and hospitals and different things, that just comes with with the type of career. But those informational interviews, that's why you do them. You want to know if it's a good fit for you, and you can ask questions of somebody that's already in the industry that you couldn't find necessarily on their website, or kind of the behind the scenes knowledge. So that would be my suggestion, is know what you're getting into instead of after the fact trying to negotiate. That's something that you should do some pre-work on. And a lot of companies will have some flexibility, and a lot do not.
yeah, that's great. Those were the two questions that came up in our chat. Maybe just one other one that I had was, you kind of touched that employers are looking to hire. What do you feel about the current job market right now? And what if someone's kind of lacking the motivation to go out and search for a job?
Great question, Adam. Yeah, thank you. So we've found that there's studies, the latest data says that there's still about 8 million individuals who are on the sidelines right now, not wanting to get back into the game. And it may be for some very valid reasons. Childcare may still not be approved and ready because of the pandemic. They may be making more on unemployment than they are when they're working, and their kids aren't in school. So there's some real reasons. But employers, there are many employers we're finding that are very motivated to hire individuals right now. They're signing bonuses. There's many that are allowing people to continue to remote work with occasional work in the office because of people getting used to not having a commute. There's never been more flexibility from the employer's perspective that I've seen in my career than there is right now. So it's a wonderful time to know exactly what it is you want to do. There's one thing that we see, there is a lot of bias out there with that Generation X, 45 and older. And the way that we're finding that people can combat that and still get these wonderful jobs that maybe they were in that industry and they got downsized because of COVID. They've still got the skills and ability, but what are your latest skills? What have you done to skill up and get a certificate or something that's recent? If you do that and you're a Gen Xer and you're willing to, and you convey that in your power statements and in your Me in 30 Seconds, that you work well cross-generational and what you bring experience-wise, a lot of hiring managers are realizing that you aren't scared of technology, that you aren't worried about working with younger generation or a younger boss, for example. So there's tactics and skills that we'll teach you and that we are finding out from hiring managers and recruiters all the time.
Yeah, that's great. We've had a couple more questions come in through the chat. Somebody wants to know, what about finding remote work? What's the best way to do that? And kind of along a similar line, someone wants to look at narrowing the job search when they aren't sure what they want to do next.
Great.
Kind of tackling both of those questions.
Okay, yeah, great question. I'm going to start with the second one first. When you don't know what you want to do, that makes it really hard for you to target the approach. That's or the company. That's why those informational interviews are just powerful, brothers and sisters. If you when I was getting set to retire, I found a range of crossover skills that I had that I wanted to still use, and then there were others I didn't want to be in law enforcement anymore. And so, take some of the skills that I did as a reentry specialist and an employment specialist, and remove the skills of being in law enforcement, and I was able to target that approach. So knowing what you want to do, there are some interest profilers out there. There are many opportunities to the ONET and some others, and we can teach you all those ways to find assessments of what you might be good at, interest profiles, aptitude. They're all available, and we can help you target that. And then the second one, or the first one, I believe, was about remote working and targeting that. Again, one of the things that we teach in our active job search groups and even in Ask an Expert and some of these other skills workshops we shared today are finding out what's in your local area. LinkedIn is a wonderful resource. The Muse is another great resource to find trends and to find out in a specific area what's happening professionally. We would just encourage you to come on any of these resources and let's do a targeted approach. The church also has an opportunity for vocational type training through development counseling services, and they're incredible. They're a sister agency with us, and we can share and talk about some of the things that they have as well when someone reaches out to either a missionary or comes on any of our services.
Great. And these services are for members and non-members, correct?
Absolutely, Adam. Yep. Great.
Right. What would you say to someone who's working full-time and wants to change jobs, but just doesn't have time to try to go through these services? Is there a quick way to do it or a scaled down time frame for someone?
Yes, great. That's so remember, brothers and sisters, when I shared the website, there were webinars that had already happened that you could click on. There's that article index. It's so powerful that you can just go right at the top and find resources. All those things you can do on your own time, after hours, so to speak. We do have some evening programs. I think I shared that as well. So there are things that you can do in a non-traditional 8 to 5. I mean, we get it that some people are employed, but they're underemployed and they want to get a better job. So.
Yeah, great. It looks like that are all the questions that we had.
I just want to thank everybody, and did you put my email address in the chat? Okay.
I did, yeah.
So brothers and sisters, we would love to help you. I can't emphasize enough the powerful resources and the way this accelerating your job search can make a difference. We've seen it in hundreds and hundreds of individuals. I believe I would be misquoting, so I won't give you the exact number, but I know in my particular region alone, we've had close to 200 placements just this year so far of good professional positions and jobs. So it works. The Lord's in the details and wants to be in your lives. And we're just grateful to do what we can to help you. And please reach out to us. Thank you so very, very much.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I hope you enjoyed this. Please make sure to check the conference agenda so you don't miss out on any of the great things we have planned for the rest of today, and have a wonderful conference weekend. Take care.
Thank you, Adam.